Hello and welcome to another edition of Strategic Gaming. My name is Mac Taylor, here to talk to you about Survivor Island of the Idols, Episode 8. What an emotional, crazy thrill ride this episode was, and we have so much content to unpack with this. It's going to be, just get the popcorn, get comfortable, folks. This is going to be a doozy of a conversation. And before I will start the video saying this, I genuinely hope a lot of people comment, whether it be on social media or in the comment section on this video, because I think this is a conversation we need to have. Whether it's about the personal stuff on this episode or just the really awesome gameplay we saw on top of this. So yeah, without further ado, without further stalling, let's jump right in. Let's talk about, we get 2 eliminations to get through here. So let's go ahead, let's get it done. So we start out, Dean is feeling good about his idol play. He's very confident about his place. He's feeling great. And Nora is like, yeah, guys, I did vote for Jack. And everyone's like, why did you vote for Jack? And she's like, well, sorry, Kelly. Kelly told me to. And I'm like, whoa, what? Like, you're just going to throw her under that bus? God damn. This was a fun throwing under the bus, though, because Kelly's like, the fuck, Nora? Like, whew, man, that was, really, this just goes to show you what kind of player Nora is. She's just such a wild card, man, such a Nora. Like, anyway, if anyone in season 41 is, like, super crazy, they're going to be called, like, the Nora card. So, everyone's searching for the idol, and Kelly gets her hands on an immunity idol. And, she's like, I needed this, all this stuff flying around. I really needed a safety net, which she does. And they're merging. They got the blue buffs, and the tribe's name is Lumuwaku, which is an abbreviation for love you, miss you, really want to kiss you. Which I think is adorable. It is really adorable. And basically, Dan goes to Janet like, hey, old Vokai get back together, and she's talking about Jamal, and he's like, do we really need Jamal? Can we just go with the rest of them? Not knowing about the whole, like, everybody flip-flopping on Jack and everything like that. And there is this question, like, will Vokai stay together? Will they do the thing of, we have the numbers, we'll just pick off the Lyro people, and we'll worry about each other when it comes down to us. Which is, it's definitely a classic Survivor move. It's the Richard Hatch move. But, Survivor has evolved so much over the years. It is kind of rare to see, people stay true to their original alliance or their original tribe. And Tommy wants to take Kelly and Janet and put them with the new Vokai, and they all work together. And Kelly's like, not going for that, because, that leaves me and Janet on the outs and gives the Lyra people a lot of power. And I'm like, not really, because it would be Dan, Tommy, Lauren, you, and Janet, 5 Vokai, 4 Lyro. And then you could pick the Lyro people off. So why wouldn't you just do that? Just in retrospect, Kelly's looking for a place to land. She's not really sure where to go. This is a perfect opportunity to just go and do that. And she immediately goes, yep, nope, not going to do that. You could even say yes and not do it and go against it, but you didn't even entertain the idea. And I think that was a huge downfall for her. And then we get, and this kind of really springboards the episode here with, and I think this might even be why they put these two together. I think these might have been two different episodes, and they were like, there's a narrative that needs to be put together with these episodes. So, Kelly and Missy are discussing Dan, how inappropriate he is at night, and they show clips to go along with what they're saying, which is very helpful to the audience to build a narrative with us and to try for us to see both sides of the tale, which they really did try to do throughout the episode. Where, Dan's like putting his arm around them in the middle of the night, kind of like rubbing a little bit. Like it's not like Ted and Gandhi a level of which we never saw that, but just from what was talked about with them, how it got like overtly sexual. This was like definitely made Kelly in particular very uncomfortable, and that is and I will talk about this in a few minutes, like, because I've really got to get to that tribal council, and I will discuss all my thoughts on that, because that's a long-winded speech. So, prepared, toward the end of this video, I will have a long barrage speech. But until then, again, I digress. So they discuss that. And the producers, they step in and they say, hey, if you genuinely feel this uncomfortable, we'll put a stop to it. Like you come to us and tell us, and we will not turn you away. We will make sure, whether it's discussed or whatever, like, we don't want you to ever feel uncomfortable or on your own here at Survivor when it comes to that. When it comes to that instance. Gameplay wise, yes, we want you alone and uncomfortable, but actually genuine, like real personal feelings, we do not want that to happen. Then we get a talk of, game versus emotion, because Missy basically tells Elizabeth to go, like, hey, go tell Janet that you're uncomfortable with Dan, and that way she'll vote Dan out. And so they literally start to kind of make some shit up about Dan. Elizabeth, anyway, because there's no clips to go along with it. Missy's, there was literal evidence. But with Elizabeth, she's bullshitting. And, again, I'll talk about this later, but I highly disagree with this, and I think this was over a line. And I will talk about it in a little bit. And I know I sound a little more serious. In a lot of podcasts, I joke around, but I think this podcast might be the least jokes I've had at a podcast. Like, this may be the most serious podcast I think I've ever done. So I do apologize if you came here for some laughs, because if you have not noticed, my tone may be a little more serious. And then Lauren goes up to Missy and is like, hey, the Vokai people have heavily talked about getting you out. And Missy's like, oh shit, for real? And she's like, yeah, especially Kelly. Kelly has thrown your name under the bus. You need, she's like, oh, but Kelly came and talked to me. She's like, well, did it make you feel safe? She's like, yeah, it did make me feel pretty safe. She's like, exactly, that's what she's doing to you. I have never been more serious than I am right now with you. You're in trouble. And I really do have to give it up to Lauren, man. She makes so many moves and never really gets the brunt of force, that the recoil for the moves happening, man. She makes some shit happen under the radar, and I really do think she is a good Survivor player, because she on a dime manages to get, no, we ain't going after Missy. We're going after, Kelly. It's like, damn, girl, you work fast. And then the producers basically meet with all the contestants individually to talk about boundaries, and then the group to kind of talk about, to try to really keep this from happening again. Because it was enough with people talking about it and enough instances of it happening to where the producers have stepped in, which is great. They should totally do these kind of things. But I understand the flip, and I'm already starting to talk about it. I am separating my that talk from Survivor talk. Continue talking the Survivor. So we get, I called it the hold on to your balls immunity. So you're basically like holding a table at an angle, which is really going to kill your arms and shoulders. And you got 3 kind of like ping pong balls balanced on these things. And if your table drops low enough, it pushes these pegs to kind of flip your balls off the table. And you have 3, and once all 3 of your balls have fallen off, you're out. So, hold on to your balls. The elimination order is Nora, Kelly, Dean, Elaine, Lauren, Dan, Karishma, and Tommy. Comes down to Missy, Elizabeth, Jamal, and Aaron. Missy then drops in Elizabeth. So it comes down to Jamal and Aaron. Aaron wins individual immunity here. And there's a lot of talk, will it be Kelly? Will it be Missy? Like somebody, like a big player is going to get the axe right here at the merge start. Like we're getting a big player tonight. And Missy's worried. And Tommy and Lauren are basically going to decide. They're kind of the swing, with who's going to go. And they really are leaning toward we should take out Kelly. And Dean, he's conflicted because while he should totally vote out Kelly, they got that mutual friend. She gave him an idol. He's only there right now because of her, but he also wants to get further in the game than just that vote. There's things, and I understand that conflictedness. Like, Dean never really makes sense to me, but in this moment, he really does. But Jamal and Nora, they're targeting Dan and talking to Janet, mostly because of the issues that have come up. Janet especially feels like it would make the girls more comfortable if Dan was gone. And even though she likes Dan and her game would benefit from working with Dan, she feels that voting him out helps them, and she would rather them feel comfortable and her game maybe being affected in a negative way than for the opposite to happen, which she's putting others before herself and also her emotions before the game, which is not a great thing to put your emotions first. But I understand, especially in this situation, it's extremely hard to decide something like that. And so basically the Lyra people, they're like, yeah, Dan, we're just going to use him now because he has nobody. And Elizabeth's like, I've never felt uncomfortable. I think this is being blown out of proportion. I think Dan's a great guy. And so, she hears about this Dan plan and runs it to, Elaine, and Elaine runs it to Dan. So now Dan knows what's up, and honestly, I understand why he would be mad, because it's kind of his reputation being put out here. And Kelly's like, something is happening. Something, not what we talked about, is happening here. And Tommy and Lauren are weighing their options, but again, it really does seem like the Kelly vote is the right way to go. And I honestly do think that is probably the right way to go for Tommy and Lauren, to be inconspicuous. Because on the Lyra side, the Missies and Aarons are bigger targets than you. So I completely understand why you would want to get behind that shield. Kelly goes out and finds another immunity idol. So she's got 2 idols now. And there's a lot of, at Tribal Council, talk about trust and deception. And it really, I think that trust and deception are a balance in Survivor. And that's a conclusion I think I've come to within the past couple, and also since I've binge watched right now, started at Borneo, and right now I'm on my rewatch of Gabon. It really does seem like there's a balance. You cannot trust people too much because that could either warrant passive gameplay, which does not win, generally speaking, or you get stabbed in the back because you trusted too much and someone was able to manipulate you and utilize you, and now you're out. That is a thing that happens. But also on the flip, you cannot be too deceptive, because people do have to. It is a game where the people you vote out do vote for the winner, and if you have pissed them off so much, or you stabbed them in the back and made them feel so betrayed, they won't vote for you at the end. Boston Rob is a prime example of that in All Stars, man. Like that jury came for his ass. Okay, he was probably the more deserving winner, but that jury was not with him. And even to a lesser degree in Vanuatu, Twyla played a good game, but that jury was very hell-bent on not giving it to her. I do think Chris was the better player, but, that was an example of maybe someone who it's debatable. Stephanie in Guatemala was another one that they felt really betrayed by Stephanie, and I do think Stephanie deserved to win Survivor Guatemala, but she did not win that jury vote by a long shot. She got the same kind of vote count that Sandra and Lil got in Pearl Islands, which I think is fucking crazy. But this isn't about Survivor Guatemala. But when I think it's when it comes to lies and deception, to truth and deception, there is a balance. You really do want to fall somewhere in the middle of it. You cannot be too deceptive, but you have to be somewhat deceiving, and you also have to trust people to be able to get you a little farther in the game, because even the people like Boston Rob had an Amber, or later a Phil, and then a Chris had a Twyla or a Julie for a while, after Sarge was gone, and Stephanie had a Rafe. You have to have your kind of ride or die person. It's imperative to staying in the game. And that was a lot more long-winded than I had intended it to be. But and the vote comes out 8-5. Kelly voted out with 2 idols in her pocket. She did a James, and that move by James is considered one of the worst moves in Survivor history. Going home with 2 idols in your pocket. However, James had 3 rounds to play them, and didn't play them at all. Whereas Kelly had a little bit of a longer stretch she could have used it for. But still, with everything that was going on, she should have played 1 idol, and then tried to maybe ride that other idol out for a while. She even said, I don't know if I'm 100% safe. Play it. You have 2. You have 2 of them. Play 1 of them. And guess what? If you didn't end up needing it, at least you tried to save yourself. At least you tried to read the room correctly. It is insane to me that this thought process exists. You talk about rolling the dice too many times, man. Ugh. Kelly, I had faith in you. I thought you were going to be the Messiah. But instead you played like the Messiah from BB-18 and you lost. Okay, I take that back. Kelly, you didn't play as bad as Jose. But you blundered here. You blundered hard. On coming back, Janet feels betrayed. And honestly, Janet should feel betrayed. Because she made a decision she thought, that did not benefit her game for them. And then it kind of got thrown back on her. And she felt kind of stabbed at. And I understand that feeling. And she said, is anybody willing to talk to me? And Missy, Elaine, and Elizabeth, they're in a circle oh my God, we're doing so good at Survivor. Look at us. We got a blind side. Literally jumping with joy. which is so arrogant and so cocky, and that puts honestly, it's a bad look. You need to have a sense of humbleness with the move, and the only people that are willing to talk to her are Tommy and Lauren, who are like, yeah, totally, we'll talk to you. And I do love what they did here, because they take Janet off to the side, and she said, what happened? And she's like, who'd you vote for? And Lauren's like, I voted for Kelly. And you're like, Tommy, who'd you vote for? I voted for Kelly also. Why? Well, you were making the vote for Dan. And Lauren's like, while I understand what you were doing, I did not feel comfortable voting based off of that, a situation I was not fully aware of. Which I got to give Lauren respect for. So Tommy and Lauren, they're willing to talk to someone who they burned. And honestly, I think mended the fence. Like, they're completely honest. They could have just been like, no, we didn't. I don't know who voted that way. But they laid it out all on the table for her. Like, hey, look, this is why we did what we did. It really has nothing to do with you in particular. Lauren especially is not comfortable making that sort of play. But, it's not like we're burning bridges with you. We could work with you in the future. And I think that is the best possible move they could have made. Instead of being the Missy, Elizabeth, Elaine trio of cheering and, woohoo and go us in front of people, you just burned her, but you could still salvage that relationship. And I think that is to have that sort of thought processing was amazing, and I think really boosts Lauren and Tommy above some people in this game. So basically, Janet talks to Dan about everything that's been going on, and talking about, all the girls came to her with all this info, and so he goes to Missy and Elizabeth like, did you really go to Janet and tell her this stuff? And then they're like, oh no, we joked about it. And it's like, again, we'll talk about this at the end, but you should never ever joke about that or make a game move out of such a hot topic issue that is a real problem. So Lyra and Dan are all fired up, like all anti-Janet. So Dan goes back to Janet and is like, look, they said they loved me, they're fine with me, and I wouldn't go talk to them because they're upset. But she does. She goes right there. And Elizabeth's like, yeah, that's what I said to you. And then when she walks away, he's like, I only said that to make her happy. And I'm like, Elizabeth, quit being, excuse me on this, but quit being such a bitch. Like, it's so wrong what you were doing to her right now. This goes beyond gameplay to just make her seem like she would lie about something like that. Fuck you. Like, oh, that upset me deeply. I understand making the play against Kelly and Janet, but that is almost a personal attack. And on that extent, fuck you. Elizabeth, fuck you. So, Janet kind of sleeps out on her own in this little hut because she feels isolated. But she notices Missy and Aaron heading out into the woods with a shovel, and she's like, hey, where are you going? They're like, oh, just a morning hike. And so she follows them, kind of splits up, and ends up finding the immunity idol. So Janet has an idol in her possession, which honestly, we're going to talk about this, but I totally feel that she should feel like she needs it. Like, she's assessing situations correctly, I think. And Karishma and Jamal, they're kind of talking about, like, what the hell do we do now? We've been on the bottom of this thing. Like Jamal, honestly, has not really had very many votes go his way. I think the Tom vote was the only vote that went Jamal's way. So they're trying to figure shit out. And there's a note, like, hanging from a tree. It's basically, and Jamal grabs it, and it's like, go to the Island of the Idols. And he's like, okay. And so he goes to the Island of the Idols. And they're like, yeah, open the paper. It says you lose your vote. And he's like, what? And Rob's like, if it seems too good to be true, it means it's too good to be true. Like, you have to earn everything in this game. Which is true. And he's like, oh, shit. And I'm like, well, here's your chance to deceive people and make them look like an idiot. We're going to give you a piece of paper and a pencil, and whatever you do with that is up to you. And so he writes like a fake legacy advantage. And he tells people, like, they really are all up for this 50-50 play a game nonsense thing, that they're all sticking with that story. And he's like, I had to give someone a power, and I'm going to give it to Dean. And it's this poorly drawn legacy advantage. Like, it looks terrible. And Dean's like, is this real? And Aaron's like, it could be if he did. He just put a target on your back. And I'm like, what do you mean it could be real? There is no, by any definition, this is not real. Like, I've seen so many Survivor notes written on parchment, and they're kind of a fancy-ish kind of writing, a little cursive, you know, like, and sometimes it looks printed on the thing. This looks like, no offense, Jamal, but like a child drew on a piece of paper, which I understand he was probably writing on like logs or the ground. Like, he didn't have like a flat table, but this doesn't look great. So the fact that Dean and Aaron are like, well, it might be a real advantage. Like, what do you mean, man? Like, come on. It's not as bad as the stick from Fans vs. Favorites, but it's goddamn close, okay? But that put Jamal's threat level up. So it's like, you know, Jamal cannot win. So basically, I call this one the Michael Jackson challenge, but they're like hanging, kind of like in that Michael Jackson pose, like leaning forward, but the feet still flat. But they're like hanging onto a rope, and Jeff's gonna lower them further and further down until they all fall off, and there'll be immunity for one man and one woman. So the elimination order is Lauren. Lauren is like frantic as shit too. She's like, I can't do it. It's turning. And they're like, what do you mean? No, it's not turning. She's like, it's spinning. I'm out. She panicked so fast in this challenge. Then Dan, then Jamal. Jamal had a lot of trouble. Then Elaine, who does like a front flip as she comes down. That's kind of cute. Karishma. Karishma has not done bad in these individual challenges. Like, where was this Karishma, this average Karishma, during the team challenges, the one who couldn't move through sand? Then it was Janet, then Dean, and then Nora. So it comes down to a battle between Tommy and Aaron and Elizabeth and Missy. Missy and Aaron end up winning immunity here. So Aaron wins back-to-back immunities. And I'm like, really? Why? Like, and I think this goes to show Aaron is so cocky and arrogant about his positioning in the game. But I think this honestly goes to show, just how good of a player he is, because, and I say that with sarcasm, because winning all these immunity challenges early when you don't need them, like your name's nowhere near being brought up. Just, later on when the other people have been taken out and they go, well, who do we pick off of our own? Well, Aaron's won like 4 challenges. That would definitely be a person to take out. So, I think he's making a big mistake showing this much physical prowess this early. There's still a lot of Survivor left to be played. Now, Missy, I kind of understand her wanting to win this. One, she's competitive. I get that. And two, she's still seen as kind of the figurehead of that side. So, if they're going to, play an idol and take a chop at someone's head, it's going to be her. So I understand her hesitance to be vulnerable. And Jamal feels vulnerable. He says, for the first time in this game, I feel like I could go home. Which, honestly, dude, there's been like 3 or 4 times you were probably going to go home and something else happened. So, this shouldn't be the first time you felt vulnerable. But you definitely should feel vulnerable here. So, good job. You got that. You got that down. And so they're going to split between Jamal and Karishma in case Jamal has an idol. And Janet, she's got her idol ready because she feels like she is in danger. And then we get this tribal council. And I will walk through kind of the events of the tribal. I will give my thoughts on the issue. Cue long speech. And then we'll talk about the vote. So, we're kind of going to put pause on Survivor itself and talk about go into the issue at hand. So basically, Janet talks about, I voted based on my morality, not on a move I was trying to make. I did not say things about Dan to cover my ass. That is not me. I did this to make the women more comfortable. And Aaron's like, it's not true. Because if those girls would have had a problem, they would have came and they would have told me. I would have known about it. And Jamal's like, well, hold on a damn second. What kind of entitlement is that where you think that, if there was something going on, I would have known about it. Just because you don't know something doesn't mean it didn't happen. And I was like, oh, man, preach it, Jamal. That is 100%. I was enraged listening to Aaron's mouth at that tribal council because he's basically like, he says, Janet's just trying to play the victim because the vote didn't go her way and she's just trying to, rip Dan's character apart. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, Aaron. You don't know shit about what's going on. And I hope when you see this episode and you see that Janet was correct in the things she was saying, you shut your fucking mouth. I was appalled by Aaron's behavior. He talks about, I mostly work with women, and I know how to, but this is Survivor, and this didn't happen in Survivor. And I'm like, you don't know. You don't know. I understand wanting to separate that kind of business from the game, but it kind of happened in the game, and we need to address it. And that's kind of what Jeff ends up telling Dan here, because then Jeff's trying to talk to Dan about where the miscommunication could have fell in at, and Dan's like, so I guess we're not just going to let this go. I guess we're not going to let this go. I guess we're going to talk about this. It's like, Dan, dude, you don't want to let this go. Especially because the viewers at home, we don't have your narrative. So you need to address it, because if you don't, and you just say, we should just blow this over, that makes you look bad. So, he says that, I've dealt with this before, in my industry. I'm very supportive of the Me Too movement and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay. And I do not know every side of the story, and especially with, Missy and Elaine, I apologize, Missy and Elizabeth doing that move. It's really is hard to try to establish everything that happened. So I am in no way slandering Dan's name. I really hope that nobody comes for him on social media. I know there will be those people, but this is not something that needs to, be, the parties involved will deal with it. And I think when Dan watches this episode, I hope he genuinely has a moment of reflection and he thinks about his life in a little bit of a different aspect, a different perspective, and genuinely understands where Janet was coming from and apologizes to her face-to-face, alone between the two of them, and they hash this out. Because I think with him knowing all the rest of the information, and that when it came to the Elizabeth situation, Elizabeth was lying through her fucking teeth, and that Janet was 100% telling him the truth, he apologizes to her because he owes her that. That being said, there is a lot of talk from Jamal about gender roles and men having to understand this with women, but I think this goes beyond that. Male or female, I'm a male. that has been put in a situation by a female where I felt genuinely uncomfortable and sexualized in a manner in which I did not want to be. And it took me years to be able to talk about that. Excuse me. So, it does kind of go, it's not gender exclusive. It is a thing that nobody should ever feel, uncomfortable and embarrassed by a situation and feel they cannot talk about it and they have to hide it, or else something will happen to them in a negative manner if they try to address that issue. That is, that is so wrong. And that is why, the change that is happening in our society right now, or at least in America, and, with the Me Too movement and things of that nature, where people can speak out and be heard and be listened to, I think is wonderful. I am firmly behind you, anybody out there that has been wronged and would want to speak about it. I am behind you 100%. You have my love and support. Now, a few people do owe Janet an apology. Like I said, that Dan kind of does. And that they can talk about this in a better light, knowing the information that was addressed on the show. Aaron owes Janet an apology for the completely disgusting way he tried to talk down to her in that manner, make it seem like she was doing this as a game move and for attention. That was bullshit. That was wrong. That was arrogant. And he owes her an apology for that. Again, face to face within their time. Elizabeth owes Janet an apology for making all those lies and trying to use such an issue as a game move. When you lie about those instances and you make up shit to use to your advantage, that's what makes these things so hard. It complicates it and makes it hard for us to know what's the truth and what's not. And because of that, we're going to go backwards and people are going to be afraid to come out because there's going to be a lot of people who are skeptical because other people have ruined it for the rest of them. Do not mess around with something that serious. That is bullshit, Elizabeth, and you need to be held accountable for your actions. I hope when you watch this episode, you reflect. Because I could see they kept cutting to Missy. And I could see, just the wheels turning in her head like, oh, fuck. I did not mean for it to go this far. I could already see her regretting it. I think she learned her lesson there. I don't know for 100% for a fact. But Elizabeth, 100%, needs to learn from this. And if she doesn't, then honestly, genuinely fuck her. Because that was so wrong. What they did there. And Janet is I don't know if I want to leave. I think I want to leave the game now. And I understand because she says she feels like the hatred. And that's when, Lauren especially is like, look, people will know when the show airs, exactly what you did. And I love you. We're in this together. We're learning together. And that was wonderful. And I definitely did not want to see Janet quit. I'm so glad she stayed in. But I understand how she would feel alone or attacked. And especially with people like Aaron coming for her like that was so wrong. And I do understand why she would feel that way. But yeah, just, everyone is entitled to feeling comfortable being themselves or being somewhere they're allowed to be. No one should ever, everyone, should have their quote unquote safe space. It should not be invaded by anyone. And if it is, they should be able to address it without repercussions. And I don't know, maybe I've said it a couple of times, but I'm just trying to reiterate my stance on it. Until it's just going to be a rant. Because I feel very strongly about this issue, and I'm glad that Survivor did not shy away from it. They showed this thing, they talked about it, they hashed it out, we digested it, they digested it. Now we can have conversations in our own lives about this. that's, addressing things and understanding both sides. Dan's, Janet's, understanding everything that's happening, addressing it, talking about it, hashing it out. That's how we grow as people. That's how, the goal in life should be just to continue to become a better person, and to become a better person, you have to understand different perspectives. And that's how you do it. So, I was very glad the show handled it. And then Jeff's like, all right, now that that's out of the way, now the game. Let's do the game now. And they separated them kind of so that we can kind of start to distinguish the difference. And now it's game time. We have addressed all of that, all of the issue. It's game time. So they go to vote. Janet plays her idol, which honestly, I totally, she ends up not needing it, but I totally understand. Especially after all of that, she should have played it. So I'm, and even though, again, I know if I was in that situation and I was on blast like that the whole time, I'm playing that idol because you cannot feel safe after that. But the vote comes out 6-3 to 2. The 2 votes for Janet being canceled, and the 3 votes being for Karishma. Jamal voted out of the game. So, my final thoughts on Jamal. He, I think, came into this game very confident in his ability to run the game. And just ever since the Molly blind side has been just on the wrong side every single time, just constantly trying to catch up, but being confident the whole time. But when it comes to these live talks they have on the show, he is very knowledgeable and seems to be able to contribute to the conversation, and I'm glad about that. And I think Jamal is genuinely a great guy from what I've seen on the show. But, oh boy, he's got a lot to learn about Survivor as far as being able to read people, because he has just made this bad decision after bad decision and not had the insight to see the downfall coming. But, I was definitely rooting for him to stay, though. By the end of this, I just wanted to see how long he could hold on for, but ultimately there's just, there's nowhere to go. With that, we'll get into power rankings here. Got 11 people left in the game. Let's go ahead and start with Lyra. Dean, I'm still giving a 3 to. He's managed to camouflage, but I don't see this guy getting to the end. And if he does, what the hell has he really done to win the game? He's managed to stay out of all this, which is honestly better for him to just not be in it. But I don't see Dean Kowalski walking away with the V here. Next up, we have Aaron, who I'm going to give, as a person, I give him a 2. But as a game player, I'm going to give him a 4. I think he'll stay around for a while, but I think these immunity wins and general cocky attitude are going to get his head chopped right off. Probably around 8. I'm going to do Missy, Elaine, and Elizabeth together because they've done a lot of their things together. And I'm going to give them collaboratively a 7 because I think they're doing well in the game. I do not agree with Elizabeth and her tactics in this episode. And I did not agree with how they did all the jumping and the woohooing. But, as a whole, they're getting what they want. Every time they manage to get what they want. And I just don't see it going against them for a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about Dan. Especially after all this, I got to give him a 1. Because even if he got to the end, he's not winning. Especially after this whole episode was basically even though, again, I don't know Dan. I don't know what this whole situation, what his intentions were. But I just don't see him winning after all this. So I'm going to give him a 1. Krishna, I'm still giving a 1 to because holy shit, she's just not. She's on the way at the bottom. She almost went home. I don't see her lasting. She might even go home next. That's about where we're at with that. Janet, I love the woman to death. I think, my heart goes out to her with what she did. I think she's a fantastic woman. I'm going to have to give her a 4 because things are not looking great for her right now. But if she can just, make it until a new target reveals itself, I think she could go deep again. She's got to blend back in. She has a chance, but it's the door is closing. We're talking about Nora. I'm going to give Nora a... I'm going to give her a 3 because she's blended in. But even just, throwing out Kelly's name without, any pressure whatsoever, it's just... I don't see her winning this game. I love Nora to death. She's great television. Tommy, I'm going to give Tommy an 8. Because, he handles situations well. He's pretty damn good at challenges, but not like Aaron, where he's winning them all in a row, and you're like, well, I got to watch out for that guy. He's getting close to the end, and then he's losing. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but if it's intentional, I might even give him a 9. Because I think Tommy's, if he's sitting in that final 3 chair, he's got a big chance to win this here game. And then Lauren. I'm going to give Lauren a 9, which is the first 9 I've given on the season, because she strategically is on another level. I think even more than Tommy. And she's not, Tommy's a big dude. He's fucking shredded, and, people are kind of seeing his threat level. They're not talking about Lauren. Lauren's able to fly under the radar, but as far as strategy goes, she's dangerous. She's like she's the shredder, and people are looking at her like she's April O'Neil. It's crazy to me that she's just gone undetected. And I think if she even sitting next to Tommy, I think she might get a win, especially if she's able to really lay out how her game was, because everything Lauren's wanted to have happen has happened. And she's had a lot of options, and I think she's made the correct decision. And even just things like talking to Janet after the vote and really trying to make her feel comfortable with them, and really trying to just, in honesty and all that other stuff. Lauren is smart, and I think she is a definite runner to win this game. So I got to give her a 9. I love her to death. I hope she wins. I honestly do. And with that is going to end the discussion of Survivor Island of Idols. Stay tuned next time when we talk about, I think there's going to be another, from the preview, it's going to be another double vote, which I'm excited for. I'm excited, and again, please comment below. Let's talk about everything. I'm just so excited to be here watching Survivor. Don't forget to like, subscribe. I got plenty of content coming your way on the channel. Again, I'm Mac Taylor. See you guys next time.